Hi guys, welcome back to another A Chapter a Day series. I hope you guys are doing fine and staying alright. So lately I have been procrastinative of is procrastinative a word? I have been procrastinating I don't want to say a chapter a day, but in the sense things that I'm supposed to do before chapter day, I've been procrastinative of those things, and it's just incorporated into the chapter day schedule being messy. Like I was supposed to post this morning, but I had things to do. Then when I was free, I just lazed around when I should have at least done the chapter day. And it's just all around been just so procrastinative. And really, I have been having inspiration for plans that are good because if you guys remember, I've said on this chapter I said chapter channel before that I took a gap year. Well, not more. It's not actually like a gap year. It's like a 6 month time period before I start college, and it had so many things, or I have not had have so many things that I want to achieve between this 6 months to 8 month time period. And I mean, lately I've just been acting like those plans are in my control and I'm in charge of them. And, I didn't bother to take them to God. I took some of them to God. I'm like, Lord, please help me to make this successful. Let it be by your grace and, your will and your guidance and your timing, let them take place in action in this plans that I want to achieve. But lately I've just been having so many plans and so many inspirations that I'm just going on with them. And I'm not saying plans and inspirations or dreaming or setting goals for yourself is not good. It's actually good because it drives motivation and makes you more influential to achieve them. But when you don't go to God and pray to God, Lord, please take charge of these plans, make it less of me and more of you, those plans are have the tendency of not, having a correct part because, it's by your timing, your saying, your guidance, your will, when it should be God's will, God's timing, God's grace, God's guidance. And my mom said something that was really, really just eye opening for me at that moment, and something that I did. She was like, in all that you set to do, whatever you're setting to do, you should just always go to God and pray to Him and say, Lord, please take charge of what I'm about to do. Anything that may come up in what I'm about to do, take charge of it. Let your will, let your guidance, let your grace, let your timing take charge of what I'm about to do. And if it's not your will for me to go through this part or achieve this, let it not go smoothly. But if it's for your will, let it go smoothly and easy. And it was just really eye-opening that I'm just here. I know, oh my God, I'm having all these plans and all these dreams and all the things that I want to achieve within this gap year period. But I know that one side of me, a part of me just knows that those are some unrealistic plans that I can't achieve now at my timeline. But I don't want to realize that truth because I just want to keep on deceiving myself that okay, these plans are realistic, but they're actually not. Some of them are very realistic, some of them are things that if I put the time and effort by God's grace I can achieve, while some it's gonna take a leap. Like when I mean a leap, I mean a leap of faith and confidence from me as a person. But I think I'll talk about that another day in terms of planning goals and dreams and things you want to achieve for a certain period of time. I think I'm going to make a whole new video about that because it's really important in building a relationship with God, because it plays an important role in form of idealism. If you are so intact with those things that you want to do that you forget about God and God's things, and building that relationship with God, spending that time with God, because you're just so focused on trying to make this your dreams and plans come to pass that you're forgetting to stay with God. And that's what I did recently. I was just like so in with these plans that I had that I just forgot about spending that meaningful time with God. I didn't necessarily forget, but half of me was like, oh, I can't wait to go plan. And the other half of me was just in with what I was doing. And, so yeah, I think I'll make a new video about that. But I've rambled for so long, so let's get into today's chapter. So today we're reading Joshua chapter 4. Yesterday we read Joshua chapter 3, and it talked about how the Israelites have finally I just rambled like okay. So the Israelites have finally crossed the river of Jordan, and God tells Joshua that he will use him as he used Moses, and it was just really amazing. And the river of Jordan is still there to today. And I actually when I was reading this chapter, Joshua chapter 3, I googled up the river of Jordan. I was like, wow! So the Israelites actually crossed there. It's actually still there, living and breathing, and people go there to be baptized too. So yeah, that was basically what we read about yesterday. Today we're reading Joshua chapter 4. I don't know what is wrong with the format of this text on my laptop. It's certainly not like this, but on here it's just like this. But nonetheless, Joshua chapter 4 has 12, but no, Joshua chapter 4 has 24 verses. My bad. I'm looking for my Bible instead of the phone because the format is just weird and I'm so sorry. But Joshua chapter 4 has 24 verses, which is pretty short. And this chapter talks about the 12 stones that the Israelites used as a memorial for crossing the river of Jordan, and also kind of like to mark the laws that God made between the Israelites and Joshua at that moment in time. And also they stayed in a campsite called Gilgal. And I did a lot of research. I don't think that's how they pronounce it, Gilgal. I think so, Gilgal. Okay, so I did a lot of research about Gilgal, and it's actually named 39 times in the Bible, in the book of Joshua and also in Judges, I think. But I've seen the name twice in this chapter, and I think later on in like chapter 6, chapter 5, Joshua chapter 6, chapter 5, I'm not sure, but I know I marked it somewhere that, oh, I'm gonna count the 39 times that this name comes up in the Bible. But yeah, that was really, really amazing. And I actually looked up the place, Camp Gilgal, and it's actually at the east of Jericho, and it's still there, present to today. Now, something that stood out to me so much, that was just so intriguing, was the fact that the campsite, Camp Gilgal, had the shape of the sole of your feet. So if you look at the sole of your feet, how it's shaped, this campsite had the exact shape of the sole of our feet. So now let's look on to the verses that stood out to me in this chapter before I get into our memory verse teaching, because I promise you this memory verse teaching today is amazing and exquisite. So Joshua chapter 4, the verses that stood out to me were verse 4, which says then Joshua called the 12 men from the people of Israel, whom he appointed, a man from each tribe. So I like this verse because I just wanted to put a reminder out there. Just remember that the Israelites were divided into each tribe, and there were 12 tribes of Israel. And, those tribes were used to allocate goods, prayers, and form temples and altars and things like this, where prayers had to be put on, and just making of altars, things like this. The tribes were used for such reasons. And then the verse that stood out to me was verse 6, which says, and that this may be a sign among you when your children ask in time to come, what do these stones mean to you? Then you shall tell them that the waters of the Jordan were cut off before the ark of the covenant of the Lord when it passed over the Jordan. So the waters of Jordan were cut off. So this stone shall be to the people of Israel a memorial forever. So this is something that I could have just forgotten completely, which would have not been great. Well, so when the Israelites were passing the Jordan literally just like opened up, not in the sense of opened up like the Red Sea, but it kind of like cut off, and it was just kind of like dry land for them to pass. And once they passed with the ark, and the head of the leaders of the 12 tribes, they passed with the ark, the water came back up. So it's kind of like the water shifted and caused like a dry land, and the Israelites passed, and then it came back up. So that's basically what happened on their whole journey. And a few of the verses are verse 9, which says, and Joshua set up 12 stones in the midst of Jordan, and the place where the feet of the priests bearing the ark of the covenant had stood, and there are there to this day. So the 12 stones are still there till this day. I looked them up, they're still there, 12 stones there, right there. And it was fascinating. I said fascinating. It was fascinating. And the few last verses are verse 14, which says, On that day, the Lord exalted Joshua in all sight of Israel, and they stood in awe of him as they stood in awe of Moses all the days of his life. So that's foreshadowing everyone is going to respect Joshua. A few other verses are verse 17, which says, Joshua therefore commanded the priests, come up out of Jordan, and when the priests bearing the ark of the covenant of the Lord came up from the midst of Jordan, and the soles of the priests' feet were lifted up on the ground, the waters of the Jordan returned to their place and overflowed all its banks thereof. So remember when I said the water spread it out? Yeah, the water spread it out. Guys, we've reached the 10-minute mark and I've not even talked about the memory verse. Oh my god. Okay, so the memory verse for today, there are actually three. The first one is Deuteronomy chapter 11, verse 24, and it says, a similar idea is represented on the eve of the conquest of Canaan. That's a wrong verse. It says, every place on which the sole of your foot treads shall be yours, and every campsite that the Israelites have, stayed in or marked, there's a sole of their feet on those campsites. And Gilgal also has the image or the structure of the sole of your feet. So that was really intriguing. And the next memory verse is Proverbs chapter 12, verse 1. So I was actually reading this when I was reading up the biblical theme of discipline, because lately my discipline has been on a little low, so I was like, okay, let me read replenishing verses. And this chapter is really amazing. It says, whoever loves discipline loves knowledge, but he who hates reproof is stupid. Now, and I looked up the word reproof because I've not heard it before, and reproof actually means when you are reproof means when people kind of like judge you, not in the sense of judging, but when you're being told you're doing something wrong. People will tell you, oh, you're doing this wrong. That's reproof in the sense. It's more like an expression of blame, or when people disapprove with you. That is what reproof is. And here in Proverbs chapter 12, verse 1, it says, if you are saying, oh my God, I love discipline, and you're, keen and you adhere to discipline, and you love knowledge, but if you hate reproof, if you hate when people disapprove with you or blame you for things or question you or call you out, that is stupid. That's what the Bible says. And it was just really amazing because I feel like over the time period of my life, and even still now, I've not really liked reproof. So I've not really liked people disapproving with me or blaming me or calling me out when I'm doing something wrong. And it's not really a nice character. And I really pray to God, and I'm still praying to God to just help me become better in that part of me that is flawful and wrongful. So yeah, that was the first memory verse, and the second memory verse is 1 Corinthians chapter 11 verse 32, and it says, but when we are judged by the Lord, we is chastened, so that we may not be condemned along with the world. So today I read a podcast. I read a podcast. I keep on saying I read a podcast. I listened to a podcast called Coffee and Bible Time, which I listen to each morning, but lately, like I said, my schedule has been wonky. So I listened to it this night when I had my quiet time, because in the morning I could not. I was really busy. But when I was listening to it, she talked about mind reading, in the sense that we always think about what people are thinking about us, the people around us. And I feel like I've practiced a good amount of mind reading, in the sense of, oh my God, I'm always, the things that I do or how I act or my actions reflect on what I think people will, take them as. So in the sense that before I do something, I always like to think, how will this person react? How will this person react? And my actions kind of like reflect on them. How I act, I'm always thinking, oh my God, what if this person does this? What if this person does that? I kind of put your thoughts into consideration, especially if I'm doing something that involves a little bit of calling out. But I'm really praying to God to help me use that positively, because you can use it positively to just help you to be more cautious of the things you do, but you can also use it negatively when, you're just kind of like judging yourself, in the sense that, oh my God, you're trying to be God. You're just like, oh, I did something so bad today, like tomorrow I gotta make it up. Tomorrow you can be better. Tomorrow you can, fill up that gap. But you shouldn't try to be God. You shouldn't try to make yourself feel so bad. Because one thing that I feel like it's underrated in the Christian community is about how God says, come to me as you are. Come to God as you are with your sin and your iniquity. He will forgive you. He will forget your sin if you ask for your mercy. The world might not forget your sin. The world might judge you for that sin. And that's what this chapter connects to. It says, but when you're judged by the Lord, we are chastened so that we may not be condemned along with the world. And I feel like it's not talked about enough that if you go to God with your sin, after he has forgiven you, he forgets about that sin. But for the world, we're human beings. You tell me something that was not the best thing you could have done, but you tell me it, and I'm like, okay, it's okay. You've not done the worst thing. I promise you, I will still remember that. Like, I don't immediately flush it off of my mind. I still remember it. But God is one person that he doesn't care about your past. As long as you come to him truthfully from your heart and ask him for mercies, he will only, want to make your future better. He doesn't care about your past. And that was just really amazing. It was an amazing podcast. It was almost half an hour, but I didn't really see the time fly. It was just amazing and so, you know, intuitive and just eye-opening. I'll put a link in the description box for the podcast so you can go listen to it, and I'll put a link in the description box for a full website. And I hope you guys are having a good time and a good day, and I'll be sure to post a video about how to set your plans and set your goals alongside having God on plan with you. And yeah, I can't wait to do that. And you guys also remember our giveaway. I will talk about that during the first week of August, which is in the next 10 to 12 days. And yeah, see you guys tomorrow. Bye.